So, one interesting thing about your journey is you did something that I think you hear a lot about from some of the top creators, such as yourself, Alex Ramosi, and it's work for someone for free that knows more
Mm-hmm.
than you and gain experience from them. And you took it to an extreme. You did it for what, 8 years, where you were working for
Three
people
years.
at least
Yeah.
3 years, but then like your part-time job at Disney, where you were basically running something. Like overall, you were doing a lot of work that you weren't getting financially compensated for. But you
Mm-hmm.
learn so much and you're able to transfer those skills to everything you're doing right now. So, how would you approach choosing where you'd want to invest your time? Because as a young person, I do think that's one of our greatest assets. Where would you invest your time to get the most ROI?
Yeah, I think it just depends on what your goals are. Like at every stage in my career, except maybe now, I've had some sort of mentor that I was doing something for free, you know? So for example, um, when I first started my company, Heather Monahan, who I was mentioning before, was my business mentor. She was the one that told me to start my company. She's the one that told me to quit my job. I waited 6 months and was making over six figures a month with my agency before I quit my job at Disney, which was a full time. That was a regular job at Disney, right? It took me 6 months because I was so scared. And I remember her yelling at me she was in the grocery store yelling at me like, quit your job. And so then I did it and everything like took off because I listened to her and I quit my job. Then I was trying to grow my podcast. And have you heard of Jordan Harbinger?
I have, yeah, he's
Yeah.
cool.
So he's like OG podcasts. I've been doing my podcast for 7 years. He's been doing it for 12 years. So he's like OG podcast. And he's grown a really big show and he's known to know a lot about podcast growth. So there was a certain point in my journey where I wanted to grow my podcast. Heather couldn't help me. Heather figured out how to like get me to start my business, but Heather couldn't help me grow my podcast. She hadn't gone where I want to go. Like she hadn't grew her podcast that big. So I wanted to have Jordan Harbinger as my mentor and I like made it a
Mm.
thing. And so I invited him on my podcast. We had an interview. He kind of, it was like just like this. He thought I was cute, good, like in terms of like you're doing a great job. He had the same like impression of me, right? It's the same situation. And then the interview ended and I just kept sending him stuff. I would send him like, "Hey, like I figured out how to grow on Castbox, blah blah blah. I can get subscribers for 50 cents. Have you heard about this?" And I would just like keep showing him like I'm doing all these experiments trying to grow my show until one day I was like he basically asked me, he said, "Hala, he's like my scripter is sick or whatever. I'm really crappy at writing. I know you're like good at this kind of stuff. Can you write my ads for me?"
Ooh.
I didn't say how much. I was like, yeah, send it to me. I'll do it right now. So he sent it to me. I did it for him. He was happy with it. And then I was like, hey, can we have a call? Like, I'd love to just like learn. And he's like, of course. Like, I'll teach you whatever you want. And then I literally would have like weekly calls where he would teach me everything he knew about growing podcasts. And I would teach him too. Like mentor and mentee relationships are both ways, right? So I would teach him the new way to do it. He would teach me the how he's always done it. And so suddenly I had this awesome mentor that was teaching me how to grow my audio podcast. And then now I'm doing the same thing, trying to learn from other YouTubers to grow my YouTube. And Jordan's not the
Hmm.
right person for that. Who am I going to find to help me grow my YouTube? So it just depends on your goals. And I think the big lessons in all of that is like, do just help other people. If you
Right.
want somebody's help, help them. And they'll in return want to help you. It's the law of reciprocity.